We're here at the wonderful McCombs Executive Center, and I'm here with McCombs professor Dr. Rob Adams. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Julie.
You've written a wonderful book, If It's Built, Will They Come? It was just released in April of 2010. And the book is really an excellent summary of the processes to be followed for product development. And too often entrepreneurs, I think, fall into the trap of, if they build an idea, certainly it'll come without really validating the marketplace. And so the first question I have is, why the book now is such a timely topic?
Right. Well, again, the book, If You Build It, Will They Come? It's about market validation, and the numbers are pretty phenomenal right now. If you look at the U.S. economy, 65% of new products fail. And if you do the math on what that number is, that's about $350 billion a year of R&D efforts that really turn into nothing. So from a business perspective and an economy's perspective, it's really critical. And the idea behind the book is I've worked a lot with established companies. I've done a lot of venture investing. I've done a lot of startups. And the whole idea is really figure out your market before you build your product. And the theme of the book is take about 5% of what you're going to spend on product development and figure out if there's really a market out there before you spend the other 95%.
Right.
Because too often it's, people just keep building product release after product release in an attempt to make the product work.
So what risk issues does this really help companies with?
Well, again, it's that development risk. Most organizations are really good at taking on big, hairy, tough engineering problems or production problems, and they can marshal the resources and get the product right, and put space shuttles up in the air and space stations around the world and wire the planet for networking. So there's not a whole lot of technical problems we can't fix, but a lot of times there are products built that simply don't have a market.
Right.
They might be very interesting products and very interesting to a very small niche, but a lot of times companies will just go out and build products where there is no real market. And that's why you see just such a phenomenal failure rate of products, and that's what this book is all about.
And how do those concepts really apply differently for small businesses and large businesses?
Well, in a large business, the success or failure of one particular product does not necessarily make or break the business. It might make or break your career or a division, but from a standpoint of whether the company is going to survive or not, the company will always survive. But what I've found frequently inside these organizations is, they have incredibly high failure rates, and they want to try to address that. So part of the techniques that are covered in this book are, if you're in a large organization, here's how you want to address these kinds of issues. Here's the techniques you use, here's how you can use your own internal resources, here's how you can blend them with outside resources. If you flip the switch and then go look at smaller companies where the new product or service is the company, if that product or service fails, the company fails, all of a sudden it's a lot bigger issue. And from a standpoint of raising venture capital or managing risk, particularly for that small company, all the techniques in here apply there as well. It's just a little more vital that product or service work the first time out.
Right. And so, Rob, maybe you can briefly talk about some of the key features in the book.
Sure. The whole context of the book is I get people to try to avoid what I call the ready, fire, aim approach to getting product or services out the door. And therefore, the book is broken into ready, aim, and fire. And the ready phase is just about sort of figuring out an idea at the big picture, whether it makes sense in the market, whether there's really demand for that product, or just because your roommate or your friends like your product doesn't mean you've got a business. Just because you got a cool and interesting feature doesn't mean you have a product. Just because you have a product doesn't mean you have a company. So it really helps you sort out what the viability is of a market opportunity. And that's pretty straightforward. In the book, it's outlined, takes about a couple days worth of work, and all the techniques are outlined in the book. The next step is the aim step. And this is where most people fall down. Most people just do a little bit of research, like the ready research, and from there extrapolate the product. In AIM, we take people through all the details of how to figure out the market, and a whole lot of getting in that market, talking to customers, talking to potential customers, distributors, competitors, substitutes for your product, all that kind of stuff, and really walk you through the details. And then FIRE is the steps needed to make sure all that work that got done makes it into the final product or service. Because a lot of times companies will invest in this kind of work, they'll put the time and effort forward, but then they won't bother to implement it. And that's sort of the key to making all this work, obviously, is following through and executing as you build and launch that product. And following these techniques, all of a sudden you have a ready customer base, you've established some early customers, you've got references, you've got analysts on your side, you've got people who can really speak to the benefits of the product.
And again, such an important topic for this economic time. And again, the name of the book is If You Build It, They Will Come, released in April of 2010. And again, thank you very much to Dr. Rob Adams and McCombs professor.
Thank you, Julie.